Adam, what are you hearing about possible discipline in this case?
David, I think we focus in here based on the Wells report on 3 individuals. That's what this is going to come down to in the end. This is going to be about discipline for the Patriots quarterback, Tom Brady. This is going to be about discipline for 2 men in the locker room, Jim McNally, John Yastrzemski. And those are the 3 individuals at the heart of the Wells report who will face discipline. Now, speaking to one source close to the investigation, he said that the league is considering discipline and that it could come sooner rather than later. And I said, what does that mean exactly? And certainly it sounded as if it were days away. So the report is in the possession of the NFL and Commissioner Roger Goodell. All the facts that Ted Wells has accumulated over 103 days are now in the NFL's possession. And when the NFL sits down to determine what the appropriate discipline should be, the only 3 individuals here that are facing discipline will be Tom Brady, Jim McNally, and John Yastrzemski, and that's where the discipline will be handed down in this particular case.
Okay, Adam, I got to follow up then. Does that mean that the Patriots as a team, as an organization, are off the hook here as far as Deflategate goes?
I don't know how to interpret that just yet. That is going to be a decision that the NFL has to make. Obviously, they employ those individuals, and the NFL could determine that the team itself could be and should be disciplined. But that's a decision the league will make. I don't know where they will fall on that. I think everybody here would have different opinions. I think the league has been very tough and very stern based on prior history here. I don't think it would be a surprise if they handed down a penalty against the Patriots. Look, the whole question here is, were the rules compromised? And in the basis that tells Ted Wells' report, it certainly would seem like there's probable cause to think they were. Now, did that gain an advantage for the New England Patriots? That's what everybody's going to be debating here, whether an advantage was gained. This I can tell you. There are 31 other teams that believe the Patriots gained an advantage. The Patriots might argue otherwise. Again, it's all in the Wells report. The league will have to determine whether it believes it should hand down discipline against the entire organization. But clearly, the 3 individuals named in this report, Tom Brady, Jim McNally, John Yastrzemski, are the ones that will be subject to discipline for sure.
Sitting on the doorstep of the house again to fall, I can feel you there. Thinking of a reason, well, it's really not very hard to love you even though you nearly lost my heart. How can I explain the meaning of our love? It fits so tight, closer than a glove. Sitting on a pebble by the river, playing guitar, wondering if we're really ever gonna get that far. Do you know there's something wrong? 'Cause I felt it all along.
Julian Lennon, 7:20 on your Thursday morning, your bright, sunny, gorgeous Sunday morning here in South Florida. Explain this to me. I'm already tired of this story, but I guess we have to talk about it. Adam Schefter was just talking about how the league and other teams are convinced the New England Patriots gained a competitive advantage from lowering the PSIs for the football. Okay? Now, we're talking about one game in particular. We don't know if the Patriots were employing this tactic every game for years. We're talking about one game in particular, the AFC Championship game against the Colts. Yes or no?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
As far as I know, the final score of that football game was New England 45, Colts 7. Yes or no?
Yes.
Far as I know, in the first half, New England outscored Indianapolis 17-7. In the second half, New England was much more impressive offensively and outscored Indianapolis 28-0. Is that not true?
That is true.
So, based upon those numbers and statistics alone, the Patriots were much more impressive offensively in the second half, yes?
Yes.
As far as I know, in the second half of that game, they used the footballs that had the right PSI. And in the first half of that game, when they were a lot less impressive, which included a Tom Brady, DeQuell Jackson interception where the Patriots got caught, where they lessened the PSIs, they were less impressive. Yes or no?
Yes.
So based upon all of that, this one game where the Patriots were significantly better in the second half with the right footballs, how in the world did they gain a competitive advantage when they played more poorly with the footballs of their choice?
That is a question that I can't answer.
Right. And neither could Dan Abrams or Adam Schefter or anybody else, because in a court of law, I would have proven my point that, in fact, lessening the PSIs turned out to be detrimental to the Patriots rather than helpful. Doesn't mean they didn't do it. Doesn't mean they didn't think they were gaining a competitive advantage. But based upon analysis, statistics, and results, they did not gain a competitive advantage. In fact, it was detrimental. So when Adam Schefter goes, we need to deem if it was, well, we already know the answer. The answer is no, it wasn't. Now, if you're going to come back and tell me, well, now we found out the Pats have been doing this for 2 years. It wasn't just a game against the Colts. Then, maybe then that body of work will tell us something different. But in this game, where in fact the Pats got caught, they did not gain a competitive advantage. It was detrimental.
One could come away with that. No.
There are results now. We're not trying to figure out what may happen. We've got results. One half of football with the right footballs where they were great, more completions, more catches, more points. One half of football with the lower PSIs, less completions, less catches, interception, less points. This is not we're trying to figure it out. We've got data that supports that they were significantly better when they used the right footballs. So now what? It doesn't mean they didn't cheat. It doesn't mean they're not going to be up for suspension or something else. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is clearly it was not a competitive advantage. And by the way, that makes it more frustrating if you're a Pats fan. They didn't need deflated footballs. They beat the Colts by 38 points that day. They killed them. They didn't need Spygate. That is, and Dan Shaughnessy writes about that in today's Boston Globe. That is the most frustrating part of this whole story, that the Pats have been so much better than everybody else. They didn't need Spygate to win. They didn't need Deflategate to win, but they did it. They cheated both times. And now they've tarnished the legend over nonsense. But based upon statistical data from that day, they did not gain a competitive advantage from lowering the PSIs. Steve, good morning.
Sydney, I love your show first, buddy.
Okay.
Second of all, definitely they had a competitive advantage because if you look last year, they were the lowest fumbling team in the NFL. And when it's cold in New England and that
Hold on. Stop it, Steve. There is no proof that they did this last year. They're talking about one game in question, not last year, not 2 years ago. Now, if they come out and say this is a practice they used for a couple of years, then you can make this phone call. Don't talk about last year. There is one game in question. In that game in question, statistical data proves they did not have a competitive advantage. They played better with the right footballs. No, that's it. No, nothing. You're stuttering and muttering. You got no answer. If they come out and say this is a practice the Pats have been using for years, then, Steve, you can call up and go, they definitely have a competitive advantage. And because you can use a lot of games to prove your point. There is one game in question here. Not a season, not 5 seasons, one game. And in that game, they were significantly better with the right footballs. I know you're a Doutman fan, Steve. I get it. But until somebody says this has been an ongoing practice, no, the answer is no. They did not have a competitive advantage. Not even close. Right or wrong?
The results would say that they did not.
That's right. Now, I'm not saying, again, I don't know if that's the first time Tom Brady went to McNally and Yastrzemski and said, do this. I doubt it. I'm a pretty cynical guy, so I would think they've done this before. And if and when they prove that, Steve, then you can make that argument that, hey, they've been doing this for years, that's why they keep winning. But we're not talking about a body of work that includes 5 games, 10 games, 3 seasons. We're talking about one game. And like I said, I am cynical that it's only one game. I would probably believe it's been more than one game. But right now, it's only one game in question. And you can talk to your blue in the face. The stats show that they did not gain a competitive advantage. 888-640-9385. Back after this.
What do you make of the language that was used?
Well, they're being very careful to say more likely than not, effectively. Same standard you use in a civil case, by the way. And you hear the Patriots saying, well, incontrovertible evidence. Well, yeah, there's not proof beyond any doubt in this case. There's not proof beyond any doubt in courtrooms all the time. So this is the evidence they have. We're talking about deflating footballs, not taking someone's freedom away. And this is the standard that I think is appropriate.
And with Tom Brady, he did not release his text messages. He didn't have to. It's not a criminal investigation.
That's right. He didn't, and he's not going to. And now he's going to suffer whatever consequences that they decide to inflict upon him as a result. There are really 3 possibilities here. Big fines, I think that's for certain. Possible suspension of Brady. That's possible. Many people think that that's unlikely. And number 3 is the possibility for the team of the loss of draft picks down the road. We'll have to see if they do that. But, if you think about this in the big context of it, compared to a criminal case, right? Murder would be fixing a game. That would be the equivalent of murder. The spy scandal might be the equivalent of voluntary manslaughter. This is probably assault and battery, something a little bit lower than that. And so I think you'll probably see a slightly lesser punishment than you saw in the spy scandal.
And what do you think here, Michael? Because the draft just ended, so it would have to be the next draft if there was some sort of penalty.
Yeah, but I agree with Dan. I think it's more likely a big fine, which I don't think the team's going to have any problem covering. They've already gone on to win the Super Bowl. The draft this year has already happened. I mean, I just think it's one of these things. Everyone says, does it really make a difference? In those weather conditions, it does make a difference. But the fact that Tom Brady, they're not sure if he's involved, it is guys, I guess, of a lesser importance, it seems like, with that team. I don't know if you can even take draft picks away.
And the investigation found that the owner, Robert Kraft, and the head coach and his coaching staff had no knowledge.
Yeah.
That's one thing that was definitive.
Brady's mentioned 378 times in there. So it's clear that they were focused on Brady throughout this.
When you were standing in the wake of devastation, when you were waiting on the edge of the unknown, with the cataclysm raining down, insides crying, save me now. You were there impossibly alone. Do you feel cold and lost in desperation? You build up hope, but failure's all you've known. Remember all the sadness and frustration, and let it go. Let it go.
It's my guy, Dan Abrams. I did a bunch of television with Dan Abrams over a decade ago in New York City when he was on MSNBC. Now, of course, he's the legal consultant for ABC, for Good Morning America, and he found a way to analogize this New England Patriot silly Deflategate with murder, involuntary manslaughter, and assault and battery, which was kind of cool. And then Strahan comes out, and he does the same thing all over again. He says, well, in those weather conditions, it's obviously good for the Pats. Okay. Then I would ask Michael the same thing I asked John Bach last night, which is, again, if in fact it was such a competitive advantage in that weather for the Pats to deflate the footballs, how do you explain the fact, not the possibility, not the probability, the fact that Brady and the Pats were significantly better in the second half with the right footballs? See, look, let me start all over here, okay? I'm not saying the Pats didn't cheat. Of course they did. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be punished. Of course they should. What I'm saying is even assault and battery, which Dan Abrams used, is a bit much. This is stealing a pencil out of a candy store. This is about the lowest of a misdemeanor you can ever find. This doesn't define Belichick or Brady for me. I understand they've been caught now more than once. Spygate and Deflategate. Once a cheater, always a cheater. All those things apply here. I can't knock you for saying that. What I'm saying is neither one of those things, in my opinion, provided the Pats with a big-time competitive advantage. And, in fact, I've got empirical data. I've got proof that Deflategate did not help the Pats. Because as far as I know, this is a one-game deal. Steve called earlier about last year. No good. No good. The text messages implied this happened more than once. No good. No good. As far as I know, one game in question. Not a season, not one game, right? Am I right here? One game.
Which is what? The AFC title.
That's
game, right?
it, right? Any other game in question. In the Ted Wells report, are they bringing up a Jet game from last year, a Steelers game from 2 years ago? One game in question. Yes or no?
From what I've read, no. They are not. Only that game.
Right. So the answer is yes, you moron.
Oh, I didn't. Right. I was reading.
Right. So don't read and do the show at the same time. You're not capable. So that's it. It doesn't matter what text messages implied. It doesn't matter what Steve assumes. Because I agree. I doubt this was the first time. I doubt it that Tom Brady did this. But it doesn't matter. This is the only game in question. And in this game, there was no competitive advantage. Roy, good morning. Hello, Roy. Hey there.
Hey, listen, you're not taking into consideration that they make adjustments. The football is not only the factor. They make adjustments, come back, and score more points.
So what does that mean? I don't understand the point.
It wasn't only the football. They score more points in that.
Well, that's right. That's because they got the best coaching staff in football. They do make adjustments. Bill Belichick is the best in the business, and Tom Brady's the best. So you're right. Couple the fact that they may now have a disadvantage because they're going back to the regular footballs and not the footballs that Tom Brady preferred. That disadvantage is minimized by the second half adjustments because they're better at what they do than everybody else. So all you're doing, Roy, is emphasizing my point. Proving how great those guys are, that they can go back to the footballs which Tom Brady does not prefer, and because of adjustments, they're even better. Right?
Right.
You see, every other sports talk radio station in the country, the board is lit up with phone calls because the host is probably yelling and screaming about this wild injustice and what a cheater Tom Brady is and what a cheater Bill Belichick is and how they're bad for the league and they're bad for the kids and all this nonsense. And it's a big mob mentality. And then all these moronic, idiotic, stupid fans call up and yell and scream with them. And for 4 hours, it's one big screaming jerk-off session. That ain't going to happen here. It's not going to happen here because I don't think it's all that big a deal. I don't. So I don't think it's a big deal in terms of defining the legacy of these two guys. I readily admit that it's tarnished. Heck, Dan Shaughnessy wrote about that today in the Boston Globe. But as I've said a couple times this morning, and as I said on my Facebook page and Twitter page last night, what's frustrating for me is that, in my estimation, Spygate and Deflategate are so silly that to take a team, and specifically two individuals like Belichick and Brady, who are so magnificent at what they do, and have it even tarnished a little over this nonsense is incredibly frustrating. I'm not a Patriot fan. I'm a Giant fan. I don't care about the Pats. I'm not here to defend the Pats. I don't care. But I do appreciate greatness. And I do know that America today and society today, you folks out there are so miserable in your own mediocrity that you take every opportunity you have to tear down greatness. You love that because I guess it makes you feel better. Me, I don't do that. I revel and enjoy and appreciate greatness. And I still think Belichick and Brady are as good as anybody in their respective fields in the history of the game, despite Spygate and Deflategate. But for some of you forbissina son of a bitches out there, now you've got ammunition. Now you've got it. Jim, good morning.
Hey, Sid. How are you?
Good. How are you, pal?
Listen, what you're saying is spot on. But what I will say is this guy, the verbiage he used about Brady, probably knew something about it. It's all bull because Brady's on record saying that he liked the balls on the lower end.
Well, but wait. Just because he said he liked the balls doesn't mean he did it. Now, I'm with you. I think he did do it.
Well, no, I'm not saying he even did it, but what I'm saying, if it's on record that he said he likes it on the deflated side or the lower end of the spectrum, then how are they going to hand the punishment down? He doesn't know necessarily that it's out of the limits. He's just saying he likes it at the lower limit.
Nah, he knows. He knows what the numbers are. He knows what the legal numbers are. So he can't. Listen, just so you know, Jim, in life, whether it's a court of law or something as silly and as insignificant and banal and trite as this, ignorance is never a defense. You bet your ass that Tom Brady knows exactly what the PSI legal limits are. And if he doesn't, ignorance is not a defense. So, that ain't going to work. Trust me. Langell will be the first to tell you that. Ignorance is no defense. So we can't talk about the Yankees today or the Mets today or the Cavaliers today or the Rangers today or the Rockets today or Hillary Clinton today or any of that stuff because we're bogged down with this nonsense.
It's very important stuff.
No, it's not.
You see, it's what the people are talking about.
Well, that is true. Those two things are not. They're not. It's not the same. There's no correlation between what people are talking about and what's important. You're right. Every single show today led with Deflategate. Good Morning America, the Today Show, the CBS Early Show, everyone. Even ABC World News Tonight last night. Lester Holt. Every one of them was talking about this. So people are talking about it, yes. Does that make it important? No. Here's Joe. Hello.
Hey, good morning. Sid, you can't imagine. I played quarterback for a very, very long time, even after high school, into all these intramural flag football men's leagues. You cannot imagine how easier it is to throw a football.
Joe, I don't care how long you played football for. I don't care what you think you know. It doesn't matter to me. I have one game in question, not a career. In that one game against the Colts, Brady was better in the second half with the right footballs. That's a fact. So what are you arguing about, Joe? What's your point? If it was so much easier to throw the football, why weren't Brady's numbers better in the first half? I don't get what you guys are arguing. Every one of you was a high school star, college star. I'm not saying it's not easier. Obviously, it must be easier. That's why Tom Brady wanted to deflate the football. But the facts are the facts. And the facts are he was significantly better, and the offense was better, in the second half with the right footballs. Those are the facts. I can't believe what you did against some high school in 1973. I've got stats. I've got facts. I'm not saying it's not easier. But on this one day in question, the only day in question, Brady was better with the right footballs. So what is your point? Dale, hello.
I'm so amazed at how many people actually care about this story, and it actually pisses me off every time I hear someone call and want to tell me their story about how they were a varsity quarterback in high school, about how they tried this experiment at home. I mean, really, who gives a damn? And you know what? These politicians that we have running our country, they are smiling ear to ear right now because this is putting over the wool over the sheep's eye, so to speak.
Oh, you're right. The person who's most happy today, Dale, very good phone call, about the country wasting their time with this is Hillary Clinton. Because as this book comes out and more stories come out about how Bill and Hillary got all this money for their foundation, and it seems to be pretty skeevy and not exactly on the up and up, that has now become the second or third story on the morning news shows rather than the lead, because Tom Brady is the lead. You're exactly right. Nobody is more happy about Tom Brady and Deflategate today than Hillary Clinton. 888-640-9385. We're back right after this.
Stand by. Live, local, real. So good. Sid Rosenberg on 640 Sports.
Bob Costas of NBC Sports joins me now by telephone. Bob, so much was made of this at the time, but in football, how big a sin is this, and is the league now compelled to take harsh action?
The league is compelled to take action. I'd be very, very surprised if Tom Brady was suspended for even a game, but he's going to be hit, I think, with a substantial fine, and based on precedent for other violations by other teams, probably the Patriots will lose a draft choice or two, but it won't be a first-round draft choice. This falls into the category, if you look at it objectively, of gamesmanship. Not that it should be approved of, but if some other team that was less successful, with a quarterback less glamorous and less in the discussion of among the all-time greats, and with a coach less controversial than Bill Belichick, I think it would be regarded as just, one of those things. But because it's the Patriots, because they have people who love them, and like any team that's that successful, people who detest and resent them, it was a much bigger deal, and especially because it led up to the Super Bowl, it was a much bigger deal. This kind of thing, looking to gain an edge, happens all the time in sports, and that's all it was, looking to gain an edge. And they beat the Colts soundly, and it's worth noting that in the second half, after they had adjusted the footballs, when they discovered something was wrong, in the second half of that game, Brady actually did better than he did in the first half.
It's kissed by the sea. Only love can make it rain, like the sweat of lovers laying in the fields. Love, rain on me.
Did you hear that, Joe? The high school superstar quarterback and John Bach and everybody else, Bob Costas saying exactly what I said. It is worth noting that Tom Brady had a much better second half with the regulation footballs than he did when he cheated. See, here's a problem. What you folks can't do is take a story and make certain things, well, differentiate between certain things. In other words, what you do is, because you're stupid, is because Tom Brady cheated, and he did, he automatically gained the advantage. When, as Bob Costas just said, and I've said on my Facebook page last night and all morning this morning, they did not gain a competitive advantage. We have empirical data that proves they did not. They were significantly better with the right football. So what you guys have to be able to do is take the story and go, well, he cheated. There's no doubt he cheated. Despite the language where Ted Wells says they probably knew he cheated. But it's possible that they cheated and it still didn't help. See, that's the frustrating part. If Tom Brady's footballs, the ones he preferred in the first half, if the Pats were up 35-7 at halftime and won 49-14, you guys could all be yelling and screaming today about a competitive advantage. But what's frustrating for me is, because I don't care about this story, but I do appreciate greatness, is Brady was better when he wasn't cheating. So you guys need to differentiate between the two. Yes, they did cheat, but no, they did not gain a competitive advantage. I don't care how many times you've thrown the football in the cold, or it may be easier. You may be 1,000% right. Like Mike Strahan said, the weather, it may be easier. But on this one day in question, and it's the only day in question, it's the only game they're talking about, it didn't go well for Brady. So he cheated. He didn't play any better. And now he's got to deal with this the rest of his career and life, which he deserves because he got caught. But you see the difference, Eric, is that people can't figure out that, yes, this part of the story, yes. Like even Adam Schefter. He's like, we need to determine whether or not they gained. No, we don't. The game was already played. How can you possibly need to determine something that's already happened? The game was already played. We've got numbers and stats providing us with proof one way or the other. So we don't need to determine anything. We have determined, based upon that day, they did not gain an advantage, but he cheated.
He cheated, right.
Right.
But they did not gain an advantage.
Correct. But people say they can't fathom that. In other words, if you cheated, you automatically. No. Sometimes people come up with great plans and very devious plans. They work very long and think very, very hard about how to do something devious, and it blows up right in their face. This is one of those examples where Tom Brady thought he was doing himself a favor when he wasn't. And now he's got to deal with this.
Well, maybe they're getting confused with seeking a competitive advantage. Because, I mean, they must have thought they were going to get an advantage, or maybe they had in the past. I don't know if this is the...
But you can't do that.
Right, right.
But you're right in that it's obvious that Brady thought he was gaining an advantage, or he wouldn't have done it.
Right. But the numbers prove otherwise.
Correct. And that's all that matters. It's all that matters. When you're in a court of law, it's what happened, not what you intended to happen. You know, how many times you hear the guy go, I didn't mean to kill her, well, but she's dead. Doesn't matter what you meant to do. So Brady cheated because he thought he was gaining a competitive advantage, but the numbers that day say anything but. God, I'm so smart. I realize. Jesus Christ. What a waste. What a waste of time doing a show like this. I should be out there trying to do something important.
Like what?
I don't know.
What's important?
You tell me.
What's important?
Yeah. What would you like to find out that we have not been able to find out yet, that you think this brain in my head can aid in getting done?
Can aid in getting done?
Yes.
Now that's a...
I'm not going to sit here and tell you I could find the cure for cancer. I wish I could.
That was what I was going to say.
But I can't do that.
No?
So,
all right. Well,
I don't think I could do that.
All
no.
right. Well, we'll have
That's
to back
a bit
off
much.
that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a pretty broad question.
It probably is, yeah.
I mean, you know. World peace, how's that? Can you get that
No,
done?
I can't get that done either. No. I can't even get peace done in Pompano, let alone across the world. Here's Jeff. Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, Sidney. Good morning. Listen, kudos to Dale for taking the words right out of my mouth. Now, let me say this. I am so disgusted by this. I am switching from Law and Order reruns during the Super Bowl to Big Bang Theory reruns. I mean, that's how affected I am.
Right. You don't care, do you?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
One point. Could I ask you a question, sir?
Sure.
Young man. All right. My pet peeve, which, I mean, I don't listen to anybody else, maybe Jeff now and then. But all these sportscasters, sports announcers, after a guy hits a home run, oh, the hero of the game. I mean, I know it's only a word, but that gripes my gonads to no end. Only Jason on the show that used to be on NBC last week when the guy from San Antonio had a great game. He didn't say hero. He said the right word. He was a star of the game.
Well, yeah, I'm with you. It's stupid. I mean, the people, and you can get offended by that or upset by that. That's fine. People also don't like when Kellen Winslow Jr. many, many years ago talked about being a soldier and a war. And when you're an 18-year-old kid and you're asked to take a rifle to Iraq, and odds are you're going to die a very lonely, painful death in a cave somewhere in Afghanistan or Baghdad, don't ever compare, as rigorous and as difficult as football is, and it is. Don't ever compare what you're going to go through in a dopey football game to war, soldiers and warriors. So we've heard that before. Same thing with hero. There's nothing heroic about Michael Jordan hitting a last-second shot against Utah. It's amazing. It's clutch. It's magnificent. It's exciting, but Yes, there's nothing heroic about that. Walk into a restaurant where two guys are standing with guns, as my uncle once did in Brooklyn, ready to rob the place, and just as a regular civilian, find a way to beat the hell out of both of them and take their guns. That's pretty heroic. And that kid we just talked about, going into Iraq and or Afghanistan in an effort to protect our country. So, we in sports, we have a habit of using words, and athletes do this all the time, of using words and verbiage to describe what they do on a daily basis, which, again, is very difficult, and most of us cannot do physically and or mentally, falls way short of heroism, warrior, soldier, and all that stuff. 888-640-9385. Back right after this.